So tonight what I want to do is I want to share with you some data that was presented to our board. Gosh, I don't even remember when it was, but it was based on the census data from 2010. And what caught my eye about it was for the first time in 10 years, Mecklenburg County experienced a negative outmigration, or a positive outmigration. So we lost more people to outlying counties than moved into Mecklenburg County, which if you've been here any length of time, you know that Mecklenburg County has been booming for a long time. So it was interesting to me that we had hard data to demonstrate that more people were leaving, really voting with their feet to leave the county than people that were coming in. I juxtaposed that data with some state level and more microscopically some county level data around voter trends. And it was an interesting juxtaposition between the migration trends, the demographic trends, and the voter registration trends. So coupling these two together, I hope paints a picture for you all to renew your commitment to the conservative cause and getting out and working for local candidates that are writing and voting on policy that impact the quality and the cost of living in Mecklenburg County, because we do not want to find ourselves in 5, 10, 15 years being a Detroit or a Cleveland. That would just break my heart, given all the hard work that we've done at the local level to try to build a community that is an awesome place to live. Okay, you're gonna jump. Keep going. Is that the first one?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I'll try to.
You just want to point to me and I'll point to you.
Sure, why not? Okay. I'll go through these first few slides just to kind of give you a backdrop of some state trends around population and shifts in population. What we'll point out here is these are, is this Mecklenburg County? Yes, it is. Okay. So what you want to look for are really the hot spots, the bright green and the red. And you can see here where population is moving out into the county where the greatest changes have been. So as the text says here, the areas in green added residents while those in red lost residents. And this struck me a little bit odd because my sense was that the urban core of the city was experiencing pretty significant growth, but the census data did not confirm that.
So I'm sorry, real quick. So you're saying that from that side, people are moving out of Charlotte Park, downtown,
urban core out to the suburbs.
South Park, downtown.
And this is projection out to 2033 for population growth. These data are probably not unfamiliar to you when you've heard that we are now a county of 1 million people. This really stands to reason. By 2033, the census folks, the demographic folks are projecting that Mecklenburg County will be about a little over 1.4 million people, and that is not surprising. And this is comparison. I'm sorry for some of the confusion on the text here. Mecklenburg, Wake, Guilford, Forsyth, and Durham, which typically are the counties that we compare ourselves to when we're looking at service delivery levels, property tax rates, et cetera, to see how we're ranking. Okay, so how do these trends translate around race and ethnicity? So you can see from 2013 out to 2033, they're looking at a kind of a rebalancing, if you will, of racial and ethnic backgrounds, where we'll see the Caucasian race, although the raw number increases, proportionally, there's going to be a shift. So and that's not a bad thing, we will become a much more diverse community. Next slide. Okay. Here's where we really get to the meat of the data that caught my eye. And these are the migration data 2000 to 2010. And the data credit here is the Missouri Census Data Center. So this isn't fictional data. To me, this is what was so exciting about this. It wasn't anecdotal. I hear this all the time. I live in North Mecklenburg County, and I hear all the time people are leaving North Mecklenburg to go to Iredell for various reasons. So clearly the anecdotal information is there, but it's hard to argue hard data from the Census Bureau. So what we saw here, not surprising historically, we have seen more people, like I said earlier, coming into Mecklenburg County than leaving. The blue being those coming, the red being those leaving. But when you look at 2010, what do you see? Even. And this actually, if you go to the next slide, shows an out-migration. Next slide. An out-migration of folks. And it represents 54 people, and I think we're going to get to that in the next slide. So this shows you the surrounding counties where we're losing people and gaining people. And you'll see in a forthcoming slide that we're really losing people mostly to Union and Iredell County, which is not surprising. Now what I'm going to show you in a minute is the other key point of this. If you look at the delta in the income levels between those coming into the county and those leaving, the folks with the higher incomes are leaving the county. It's about a $20,000 differential, and that's something that we've got to pay attention to. Next slide. And this is what I was just talking about here. Again, leaving Mecklenburg and coming to Mecklenburg. Leaving is the red, and this is your snapshot around income. So in an ideal situation, we would like that blue bar and red bar to be just reversed, meaning those with the higher incomes are coming into the county versus taking their lower incomes out. Next slide. Here are the actual hard numbers around salary differentials juxtaposed with migration data. If you look at Union County, the average salary of people leaving Mecklenburg for Union is just, $57,000, a little over $57,000. Those folks from Union moving into Mecklenburg are bringing a salary of about $36,000. And that pattern is pretty consistent around our surrounding counties. So again, something to pay attention to. What does that translate into? Purchasing power, sales tax dollars generated, the price of the homes that they're buying, property tax generation. All of that tax revenue, potential tax revenue, leaving the county. The other story that this tells behind the scenes is folks coming to Mecklenburg County because rumor has it, and it's well known, that we are very robust in the social services that we provide. Not necessarily a bad thing, but we have become very rich in the services and have become a magnet for people in outlying counties and even out of the state coming to Mecklenburg County to avail themselves of the social services. Long term, it's not sustainable. We have to maintain our quality and our cost of living here in Mecklenburg County. Next slide. Okay, so when we take a look at out-of-state counties providing new residents to Mecklenburg, I thought this was interesting. Probably not some surprises on here for you. York County, to me, that was a no-brainer. We see a lot of South Carolina folks coming in, but we also see a lot of folks from Mecklenburg County leaving to York County. South Carolina, California, a lot of West Coasters coming in. That maybe some job-related transfers, I would say, or what I find is the second generations, or the older generations following their kids and their grandkids. The kids have located here with their children, and grandma and grandpa want to locate as well. So that's, I think, pulling some of those longer distance migrants into the community. And then, of course, the Atlanta area. Next slide. Okay, here, this is also in-state migration into the county. Again, this is just another reiteration of the graphical or geographical slide we saw earlier. The number 1 is Union, number 2, Cabarrus. And we do pull some folks from Wake County. But again, if you take a look at the gross income, the in-migration gross income versus the out-migration gross income, this is really something we've got to pay attention to. On average, like I said, the delta is about $20,000. Next slide. Again, this is how we stack up relative to other counties. Mecklenburg being blue and Wake being red. Wake tends to be the county that we really compare ourselves to. Their school system is larger than ours right now. They're almost as big as we are as a county, but you'll see their tax rate is significantly less than what we offer here in Mecklenburg County. Next slide. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit to voter registration. This is probably the more depressing part of the discussion, and I want to open it up for discussion when we're done, because I think we've got to start thinking through some solutions and how we're going to approach the registered voters in the county so that we can keep people here, keep them active, and change some of these demographic trends that we're seeing. So again, the blue, you're going to see voter registration increases of over 5,000 people. Not a surprise if you look here, Iredell all the way down to Union. This has been, no doubt, a huge growth area of the county, and Wake County and its surrounding counties as well have grown significantly in voter registration. This is 2010 to 2013, and the source here is the North Carolina Board of Elections. Next slide. Okay. 2010 to 2014 voter registration trends by party. The big display on the top is statewide, and then I broke out Mecklenburg County on the bottom. Statewide, we're looking great. This is why we went for Romney. This is why we will have a Republican senator replace Kay Hagan. And this is why we have a Republican General Assembly and a Republican governor. The numbers are looking really good. But look at this here. This is huge. And we need to understand how they think, what their issues are, and how to get to them. Because I believe, and I've seen in some of the data that I've looked at for my district, they tend to break Republican, but we can't ignore them. Look at Mecklenburg County. Not surprising. Increase in Democrat voters, 26,000. We saw a decline in our voter registration. Libertarians increased theirs by 1,500. And look at this unaffiliated. There was a greater increase in the unaffiliated registration than there was in the Democrat voter registration in Mecklenburg County. And this is no surprise. If you do any reading around voter registration trends, this is really verifying that reading that you've done.
Oh, yeah.
So the takeaway here is to understand the reality of these numbers, and when you're working on campaigns or you're a candidate, really understanding that those unaffiliated voters are your target market, your target audience. Okay, next slide. These are Mecklenburg totals, and this I went back to 2008 because I wanted to get a presidential election cycle in there, as well as some congressional election cycles. So if we look at, this is the actual breakdown of the totals. This is not surprising. I think we all probably know this. Significantly more registered Democrats than Republicans, but again, look at the unaffiliated. Now here's the deal. If we combine the Republican and the unaffiliated, we can elect Republicans in Mecklenburg County. It's just a matter of understanding who and where these folks are and targeting our message to them. Scott, did you have a question?
I was also going to say, and also Republicans turn out to vote more than Democrats do. So just taking half of the unaffiliated and getting them to come vote our way can swing any election in Mecklenburg County.
Yeah, you're right. And you see the demographic racial breakdown is here as well. The other would include the Asian, the Latino, etc. Next slide. The next slide are going to be the changes, and this is where the hard numbers turn into percentages. And if you look at, again, this is January 2008 through December 2013, and this comes from Carolina Transparency. We lost a little over 1.5% in that time frame for Republican voter registration. And again, look at the unaffiliated. And they're just people, when they're registering, more often than not, register as unaffiliated versus Republican. Next slide. Is that it? Yep. Okay. Well, that's the end of the presentation, but what I want to do, I don't want to walk away from here leaving you depressed, because it is a depressing story, but it can also be a very motivating story. If we don't know the reality and we don't know the facts, we can't plan our strategy effectively to change the dynamic with our local city and county government particularly. So I would open it up to you. Was this surprising to you?
Sadly, no.
Sadly, no.